So the more varied it is for me, the more I know that they're going to enjoy it too. Okay? So materials, really big. The other part of your environment that you need to set up is location. Storage is huge, so make sure you have storage for any unused materials that has easy access for the teachers as well. Okay? If your paint and art is located in a totally different room or a totally different part of the building, it's going to be hard for you to say, oh, wait a minute, I forgot the yellow paint, so everybody hold on. You leave the classroom to go and get yellow paint. What's going to happen? Chaos. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you have your materials there with you. Have backup. All right. So one of the things that I like to do, and I don't have it in here right now, but the dollar store sells the squeeze bottles for like ketchup and mustard. Fill those with paint and keep those in your classroom for backup. All right, if you ever need it. Children should have access to open-ended materials for the majority of the day, especially when you're working with young children. We talk about the majority of the day. Now you have to look into your class or in your schedule and see what that means to you as a teacher. And you can ask your teachers too what the majority of the day for them is. For me, it's like an hour of my day that I need to have materials readily available. So for toddlers, you think, okay, they're not 2 yet, and if you leave paint out, what are they going to do with it? Any guesses? They're going to paint everything, right? So what I've done to help with that is I made, we had this just random, I don't even know what it was, it was like a cabinet or something. It was kind of like it wasn't even a desk. It was just this box with a hole in it that was just sitting around. And nobody was using it, so I took it and I painted 4 sides of it with the black chalkboard paint. And then there's a hole in it, so I was able to put a Tupperware drawer in it where I could put paper and chalk, sidewalk chalk. So the kids now have a surface on which throughout the entire day they can take the chalk out and draw on the chalkboard, or they can take paper out and draw on the paper. Well, now they're getting old enough where they can start asking for crayons. So they pull that paper out and set it down on the table and will ask us for crayons, and the crayons are readily available. I don't have them sitting out, but they can ask me for them. So if they ask, then we sit down and we do art that way. But the chalk, if they take the chalk and go and draw on, my slide or my wall, I'll just take wet paper towel and wipe it off. Okay? So just think about your kids, think about their ages, think about their abilities, and work it in that way as well as you can. Display is really, really important. Displaying children's artwork in a safe and protective way on their eye level. I always love when you walk into a classroom, and especially when you work with very young children and all the artwork is up high. Okay? And there's a reason for that, because in my room, if I put artwork down low, first thing to do is take it off. You're like, oh, it's so pretty. Leave it up. Let's look at it. Let's talk about it. Yeah, no, it comes right off, because toddlers are masters of destruction, and they're really good at taking things apart. Okay, better than you and I. They can take things apart in an instant. Things that you didn't think they could. So putting anything up on a wall that's not protected is really hard. So of course, laminating paper is big when it comes to putting artwork up. Contact paper is another really good one. Plexiglass is really good too. They make these really cool art displays now for really young children that you can put it behind this plexiglass and lift the plexiglass on and off. But they can be kind of expensive, so you have to get creative sometimes. Also, sleeve protectors. Those plastic sleeve protectors that you put in your notebooks, you could slide a piece of artwork in there and put that up on the wall with a little bit older, so like this one's class, like the 3-year-olds. They would be okay with that too. And most of the time, they're pretty good at this point of knowing that, we need to respect the artwork that goes up on the walls when they're about 3. So, you don't get as much of that destructive type of behavior. But display is really important. Have a cool place in your classroom where you can display things. When I worked in the 3-year-old room, we had, and I could very well easily do this in my room too now. I went to the dollar store, got some diploma frames, took the glass out, and then just painted them gold. And I made my own museum in my classroom on the wall, and the kids loved seeing their artwork displayed in a fun, creative, new way. That wasn't just something slapped up on the wall. This was special. Okay, to have your picture framed in a gold frame was special to them. And oftentimes I would have the parents come in, and also it was special to the parents too, because they saw their kids' artwork up in a special way. All right, so make sure that you display things like that in a special way. All right. very disoriented. Process versus product art examples. This is fun. This is kind of a little game that I have for you where I want you to tell me whether you think that it's a process or a product art. Okay? So these are things that I went around our building and took off the wall and at various times during the day and at various times during the year and said, okay, this is a great example of this and a great example of that. So I want to see if you can tell me what it is. All right. So obviously we were talking about ponds when we did this one. It's a turtle. It looks like a turtle. You know what? I say it's a turtle, so it's going to be a turtle. Do you think that this was a process or a product art? Okay, product. It was made on sandpaper. They painted on sandpaper. Finger painted on sandpaper. Process or products? It's a combination of both. It's a process art that I turned into a product art. Okay? The process was, it didn't look like a turtle when I set it down in front of them. They had a piece of sandpaper that I put in front of them and green paint. And they just sat there and we talked about rough and we talked about, smooth and we talked about what the paint felt like and we talked about the color that they were using. And, it was pure process art when they did it. Okay? And then I took it and cut it out and added these little things here. Because product art is primarily a teacher's job. You're going to be doing most of the work. You're going to be sitting there cutting out all the little pieces, all the little parts, and you're going to be gluing them together or showing the kids where they need to put them. So you're the one who's in control of that art. All right? So I was in control of what the end product looked like, but they were in control of the process. All right? They didn't know that it was going to end up looking like a turtle when we were done with it. All right? But this is something that the parents could then take home and put on their refrigerator, and they liked it. All right? How about this one? Process or product? This process, all I did was cut out, I did cut out the paper to make it look like a duck. They knew they were making a duck, but I didn't tell them where to put their feathers. Okay? They painted the glue on there all by themselves. I didn't tell them where to put glue. They put that on the paper. So, yes, it is a process, but it ends up being a product. Okay? So it's a way that you can do that. How about this? This is very, very old, as you can tell. This is my 7-year-old daughter's.
Product?
This is product art. Okay? Do you think that because, honestly, she was about a year and a half when she made this. Do you think she did this? Do you think she made the eyes go there, and the little beak go there, and the tummy? No. You know how long I sat and watched the teacher cut this out? She sat there and had to cut out for 12 kids all of these pieces and parts, and then sat there with them. They didn't sit there and put it on. I love this teacher dearly, don't get me wrong. She did some great things, but this particular activity was purely product. All right? There's not a lot that my daughter was in control of when she made this. Okay? How about this piece? Process. It is process. All right? Nobody told the child where. They were talking about squares, granted, and yes, the teacher did cut it all out. However, they're too little, they can't cut them out yet. But what the end product was, you can tell it's a blue process. There's nothing there that's saying you have to put this square here, that square there, this square here to make a house. Okay? They just put the squares on wherever they wanted to. Same with this. They were learning about circles. Okay? Nobody told the child where to put the stamp. Where to put the stamp for that was a circle. I think they were using cups actually. Alright? Not necessarily something that, I think it's really cool because I like that kind of art. But, there's no real product here other than they were learning about circles, which is great. I like this one. This is one of Michaela's. It's process. What medium do you think they used? You know what a medium is? Medium is the type of paint. What?
Watercolors?
Watercolors, they did. But if you look, I think it was really cool. She painted her hand. And you can see her handprint in here a couple of times. Which I thought was really cool. So nobody, she went from using whatever art tool that they had out to doing something completely different with it, painting her hand and using it to create her own art. Okay? This one's my favorite. Process and product. Yes, so that would have to be
sure all she did was the glitter part. So
all the child did was probably the glitter part. Yeah, it was probably just putting the glitter part on. Actually, it looks. I don't even know if they were. I don't even. If I ever saw this come into my room, I would tell you to redo it. Okay. This is not. I don't know. For me, it's not necessarily art. It's a coloring sheet that's been manipulated. And two, I would never use glitter with toddlers. All right, young children, they make this really cool glitter now that isn't like this because if it gets in their eyes, it can cut their eye. So I just use this more as a warning than this process or product. I don't really know what exactly they were learning from this activity. I really don't. I don't know what the theme was. I don't know what came from this. I really don't understand it. But they had this up, and it was up and presented as art. And I just every time I walk by, I just scream. Oh no, this isn't okay. But it's just coloring sheets aren't. They're fun, but I don't consider them art. Art is more freeform. My daughter would probably disagree with you because she loves to color, and so do I. But it's got its place. This, especially when you get like to kindergarten and things like that. But I wouldn't necessarily call it art. It's an activity. I wouldn't necessarily call it art. Okay. I like these. Process or product? Process. Same with this. This is process. This is pure just easel art, hanging out, coloring, making things, using different colors, letting them choose, this kind of thing. This was Miss Lund's class, and they were making pizza. Miss Lund, granted, they had things that materials out for them, but none of it's. What?
I said it kind of looks like a face or a head, from
it
like
could,
the right side.
Depending on which way you put it. But yeah, they were making pizzas, and so I thought this was really cute because they used a variety of different materials to create a collage. Even though eventually it was going to be, they were presented as pizzas, and it even says it all in there. And that's another thing too, is that when you're making something that is eventually going to turn into something else, make sure that you label it so that people know that, okay, they were supposed to be pizzas, but this is still freeform, okay? It's still a process. They're still used various materials in various ways to create this product that they eventually put up, okay? How about this? This was actually art.
Product.
Oh yeah, this is pure product. This was done by a practicing student of mine. And he came into my room and he struggled with this. And this was one of the main catalysts of me saying, okay, well, I'm going to do something on process of product art. This is, and I went ahead and after he did this activity and after he left my classroom, I asked him if he would please write something up for me to share with everyone, from now on so that they could understand what the difference between process and product art. And so he wrote this, and I'll share it with you. He said, this is an example of pure product art. The goal of the activity was cognitive in that I want the children to become familiar with the parts of the face. So, we were talking about parts of the face. It was a good concept, all right? And he also wanted to include the concept of big and little. Upon implementation of the activity, however, I realized that it could have been presented as a non-art activity like a flannel board activity. So having these pieces and putting it out on a flannel board and then, working with the children individually that way was something that he could have done. The reason being is that toddlers really enjoy the process of art. Art should be primarily in their control, and toddlers aren't the only ones who like that. When a product art is presented, most of the control is in the hands of the teacher. Okay, the teacher cuts. The teacher cuts out all of the materials, controls the amount of time the toddler uses the glue, and in some cases, like this one, controls the amount of materials that are glued on the paper. The reality is that art should be an opportunity for toddlers to explore texture, color, surface area, and different manipulatives that can be used to create. Pure process art would mean nothing to use the teacher, or more likely the parent, but it does mean something, does. But it's everything to a toddler. Now, I watched Ramsey spread pink paint on white paper using a flower for almost 20 minutes the other day. Now, this is a toddler. For a toddler to have an attention span to do anything for 20 minutes is huge. Okay? Their attention span is maybe 3 minutes max, at the most. Okay? So for them to sit for 20 minutes and do an activity and really get into it and enjoy it is really what we're looking for when we talk about process art. Okay? But to watch him spread it on the paper for 20 minutes the other day was amazing. On the flip side, he was very frustrated completing this activity in under a minute. And I remember, he actually cried when it was done because he didn't have any more materials to put on it. So if I have something that's specific that only has a limited amount of things that they can do, I always make sure I have a backup so that they can continue their process. So the other day we were making Chinese scrolls. Now, if you've ever seen the Chinese character, they're very precise in the movements and in the lines and things like that. So I only had them paint on the red scroll for like not even a minute. All right, so they made a couple of lines on the paper, and then I removed the paper, and then I gave them another paper and just let them go at it. At that point, that's where they were really getting into the whole process of it. So I had a product that we were talking about lines, and we were talking about putting lines up and down and lines across the paper, but it was very controlled. And so then I gave them the opportunity to do it on their own. Okay, and it changed the activity for them so that they weren't getting frustrated by being on a time limit. Okay. He loves process art, and when that's taken away or limited, it can be devastating to them. A pure product art should always be cognitive, otherwise what's the point? And it should only occur maybe once every 3 to 4 weeks. That in and of itself, can be debatable. However, it's really important to understand that this was pure product. This frustrated the children, and he understood that. Okay, process art is less frustrating and is more open for a child. Okay, and so they enjoy it much more. They can really get into it. This is a pure process art, and something that I love doing with them, and I will repeat every year from now on. We were learning about giraffes, and so I was trying to get the children to understand what it was, reach up high to get something or to do something. So what we did was we went outside. Taking art outside is fantastic. We went outside, we had 2 trees on a playground, wrapped the trees in paper. Took, we have diaper changing paper that we do change diapers over there. We have paper that we put on the diaper changing table. And there are these long tubes. And so all I did was I taped a paintbrush to the tip of the tube so that they could be a giraffe and reach up high on the tree to paint. Now, we had paint absolutely everywhere, and I'm so glad it was outside. But they all went home very colorful that day. But the parents know that when they go home colorful, they've had fun, and they really got into their learning. Okay, so I'll pass this around, and you can just see how much they, enjoyed. Just the look on their faces, just enjoyed and were in awe of what they were doing because they were reaching up high to paint up high. And I didn't put the paper down low; they had to reach up high in order to make any sort of mark on that paper. All right, so that's a pure process art, and loved it. I'm going to repeat it every year from now on. So when you're doing these type of art activities with kids, one of the really cool things that you can do is what we call art talk. All right, I don't know if you've ever heard of math talk. I don't even know if they use it anymore, but art talk is something that they've developed, and it's a way for you to interact with children, especially young children that have a limited vocabulary. Because talking through an art experience gives them new words and encourages them to think about their own and other people's artwork, okay? So for nonverbal children, if you're working with any kids who still are not quite talking a lot or are a little bit on the young side in their developing language, you want to really talk about the process, all right? So you want to begin with sensory experience. Ask the child how it feels, okay? Is it cold? Is it sticky? Is it wet? Is it rough? Use descriptive language. It helps expand their vocabulary. Talk about the colors you see. Talk about the child's actions, the tools that they're using, any shapes or designs that they're creating, like Micah with his Mickey Mouse and the circles that he kept making over and over again. Okay. Talk about what the child's feeling. Are they acting like they're happy when they're painting? Do they have a smile on their face? Are they acting serious? Do they look like they're having fun? Are they experimenting with things? Like, are they painting their hand and using that instead of, just using the materials and the props that you have provided for them? All right, so once the children get to a point of understanding visual literacy, we said visual literacy is that what they've put on paper starts to make sense to them, right? They can express to you what it is that they've made. So a lot of the kids that you're working with now, this is where you're at. You want to focus praise on the effort that they're doing, not on the product. All right. So never ask a child, what is it? All right. If they bring you something that they've created and they're saying, look what I made, and you're looking at it going, okay. you know? Don't crush their little hearts. Don't ask what is it, all right? Because they know full well what it is. So what you can say instead is, tell me about your drawing. Tell me about your painting, okay? Don't just come out with, well, what is it? You know, and then say, oh yeah, I see what it is. Tell me about your painting, okay? What interesting way did you use your paintbrush? You know, did you paint fast? Did you paint slow? Those type of things. Were you really concentrating? Or you were really concentrating. I see that you put some red over here in this corner and some blue over here in this corner. And hopefully with some of this conversation, you're going to get from them a hint as to what it is that they've made. Okay, usually they'll tell you right away. If you look interested, sincerely interested, all right? Talk about shape, color, and media. What I noticed first about this artwork is you used a lot of up and down, vertical, circular, fast, slow strokes. You use blue and yellow to make green. Green is a secondary color. It's a very relaxing color. Green is a color we see a lot in nature. Expand on their experience, okay? Expand on their vocabulary, too. Putting sand in the paint made the texture rough, all right? It went from smooth to rough. I see the sailboat in the foreground and the beach in the background. You know, give them some art language or some art tools that you can use. And you don't have to be an art history major to know any of those things. Also promote self-evaluation, all right? This was my favorite, and I use this with my daughter all the time, and she actually pulled it out on me yesterday. She's 7 now, so she pulled it out on me yesterday. She was drawing something. I used to ask her all the time, can you add more detail, or are you all done? You know, did you finish it? Are you happy with your artwork? The other day she brought me something she was drawing and was explaining to me what she was, and she's an excellent drawer now. But she brought something to me, and we were talking about it. She goes, but I'm not finished yet. I need to add more detail. And she took it and walked away. Okay. I used that enough on you. You'd think you'd be able to come back at me with it. How does the painting make you feel? What part of the painting do you like best? Tell me why. You know, ask open-ended questions. Not, you know, what color did you use? Red. You know, what shape is that? It's a circle. You know, did you have fun? Yes. You know, don't ask the simple questions. Ask something that's going to get them talking to you. All right? And then you can also ask, where should we put your art? Where do you want to display your art? And you can do this at home too with your kids. You know, have a specific place to set up your art, but ask them where they want to put it. I have art on my doors. I have art on my windows at home. I mean, it's everywhere. But my daughter's proud of what she does, and I'm proud of what she does. So we display it in all different ways all around my house. And it can be the same way in their classrooms too. Okay. So no matter what age you're working with, the most important thing is to do art with your children. Sit down and enjoy the process with them. You don't have to be a great artist. You don't have to make anything. Sit down and draw a squiggle line or a circle over and over again and just look at it and say, you know, if they say, what are you making? Especially kids who are older, because they want things to be a product, all right? But you're their model, and you're the one who's going to show them that it doesn't always have to be a product, all right? That it can be free form. And sit there, just doodle with them, and just say, and talk about what you're doodling. Oh, I'm just doodling. I'm just going to make this line. I'm going to make it a circle. I'm going to start small. I'm going to make it bigger and bigger and wrap around. And then I'm going to look at it and go, oh, it looks like a snake. You know, it doesn't have to be a snake. If you say it's a snake, it's a snake. All right? And the kids are going to follow that model. And they're not going to be frustrated and put their heads down on their paper and cry because their snake doesn't look like your snake. All right? Because you were doodling with them and you were showing them how the process can be a fun and free form type of thing. All right? And I'm just going to share really quickly with you, because I know we only have like 5 minutes left, some of the materials that I've made and things that I've done regarding art. You can find art books everywhere, especially on art history now, that you can add to your libraries. Google it. Amazon.com has tons of them, things like that. But I have to have things that are suitable for toddlers in my library, because toddlers don't handle books very well. So I have to have toddler-friendly books, so board books are really big for me. And I have found some great ones. Making Van Gogh's Bed, it's very interactive with you know, famous art and artists. These books come in a series. Julie Merberg and Suzanne Bober did these great books, and there's a bunch of them, but Painting with Picasso, A Magical Day with Matisse, and just bringing art into the classroom. I try to do in various ways. I used to have, here we go. There are some great books that you can do too that work well for working with older kids, and especially when you start doing history lessons and things like that, you can look into these and find art and artists that correlate well with the time frame that you're looking at when you're working with older kids, and do activities in the classroom. I taught third grade. A student taught in a third grade classroom, and we were learning about Greece and Rome. We made sculptures, we did carvings, we did mosaics, and it was all based around this big theme of Greece and Rome and all of those places, and it was an SOL. So the art, bringing it in, it helped the kids who were more interested in that activity to come into the history lesson and enjoy it. But this is a great book. Mary M. Kohl, K-O-H-L, does a lot of books about using art and doing art with young children. But this one's Discovering Great Artists, and this one is Great American Artists for Kids. When you get into a classroom, I like to really try to, one of the things we like to do in the classroom is get the kids into the art and really interacting with the art. So creating a sensory table out of a piece of art was really fun for me. I used Monet's famous painting of the lily pads and the bridge and all that stuff in the water. We went ahead and did a unit on famous artists and used that piece of artwork and in the sensory table, filled our sensory table with water, added lily pads, okay, made out of foam, added these little toy frogs. Alright, and the kids were able to float these on the water, interact with the frogs in the water table, and interact with, create their own scene, I guess you could say, art scene in the water table. So it wasn't just water play, it was, they were creating something as well. So I like to add things like that. A lot of the kids that you're working with, especially downstairs, are multi-age. They're not all the same age. Same thing for me, I don't have all the same abilities. I have kids who are speaking complete full sentences and they're not even 2 yet. And I have other ones who are almost 3 and are still struggling with language. So, you have a lot of different development levels in your classrooms when you're working with children, so you need to be prepared for that. So what I did was I went to the dollar store, we were learning about Van Gogh, and I went to the dollar store and got these sunflower mats. And they're just the mats, I guess they're placemats that you put on your table. I got some Velcro, another teacher's best friend, invest in Velcro. Velcro, pipe cleaners, and hot glue. Big time. But sell the piece of Velcro, and they had to put the petals, I varied it in different ways. They put something in the middle, which could be a color, it could be a number, it could be a letter, and they put it in the middle. And then the petals represent whatever's in the middle. So if it was red in the middle here, then we would have a red rose, and that would go on the side. If it was the letter R, rose starts with the letter R, that goes on the side. There are 3 roses in this picture. If it was the number 3, then it would represent the 3 roses there. So, I varied it so that I could use it with different ages and different levels. Okay, so if you're teaching in a multi-age classroom like they are downstairs, this would work really great with that. And another thing that I did was I went to art.com and downloaded a bunch of different, copied and downloaded a bunch of different pictures, and I made my own letter wall, but with famous artists and artwork. So this is an Andy Warhol picture of a dog. And so I printed it off, put it on here, put the letter D on it, and it was part of my word wall. So we put all the words that started with the letter D underneath it. Okay, but I brought something that I was passionate about into my classroom because it's something I like to look at all the time. So, why couldn't I just, impart that on someone else, especially young children? All right, and making your own games are really cool too. Get this poster board, get some post-it notes, use them as the pathways. This is very similar, or played very similar to Candyland. So they have dice that they roll, or cards that they pull. These are the cards that they pull. All right, again, that I made with sticky notes. They pull these cards and then they move along the board that way. And then I created my own, and these are really cool to create as game pieces because you can put anything on them. But these are famous artists. These are those photo blocks that you can hold up, or that you put photos on to display photos. And all I did was just print off famous artists, and those were the game pieces. Okay? And they moved along the board that way. And if you share your passion with other people, it's really great, especially when you share them with parents, because then every year when Teacher Appreciation comes around, or any holiday in which you get gifts, you're not going to get the same teacher coffee mug every year. I have quite a collection of coffee mugs, but now they know that I love art and artists, so now they bring me things that I'm passionate about, and one of the things that they brought me was this really cool action figure. This is Van Gogh, and he actually has a head that pops off so that I can put a different head on him that has where he cut off his ear. He was very sad one day, but he, which I have to explain to the kids. But they have a different head that I can put on him. He's got instead of a sword or anything like that, he's got a paintbrush and the different pieces of artwork that he created, an easel, an actual paint palette, and I would let the kids play with these. I also had a Monet. The kids would play with that too. So, things that I can use in my classroom. I've got these great puppets. They're finger puppets, and they're famous artists as well. I've got Van Gogh, I've got Frida Kahlo, and finger puppets. A kid will do anything for a puppet more than they will for you. So bring in a puppet and have it use a little tiny voice or a big deep voice, and you're set. You don't have to be on Sesame Street in order to get the kids to do what you need them to do. But that right there will show you that they will do anything for Elmo. Elmo is a puppet. And even the older kids too. I used puppets in the 3rd grade class I taught, and it was great. I mean, we were talking about lesser than and greater than, and we used a big alligator puppet, and the alligator puppet showed the symbols of lesser than and greater than, and they ate it up. They loved it because they're still kids. You could be teaching 3rd grade, you could be teaching 3-year-olds. They're still kids. So all these elements work really well for all of them. All right, does anybody have any questions? I know I've talked your ear off. I just have a lot in here and a lot to say in less than an hour. No? Well, thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions or want to come into the classroom, you know where to find us. Ask Dr. Fergie to